Welcome to the Renegade Nutrition Podcast, where we discuss all things wellness.
I'm Eleni Welch, nutritionist.
And I'm Kay Boyer, health enthusiast. Welcome back, Renegades.
Welcome, Renegades.
Welcome. We have an awesome guest again, and I hope that you remember her, Dr. Cori Stern. Woo! And I'm so excited for this topic, and I'm ready to get into it. So, yeah.
Yes, welcome back to the podcast, Dr. Cori Stern. Your episode on detox is one of our most popular. So
it's because it's so important.
Right.
So, like nowadays with our modern bodies.
Yes. So we're super excited to have you back. And today, because there were just 1,000 topics within the topic of detoxification. So today we wanted to have Dr. Cori back to talk specifically about heavy metal accumulation and heavy metal detox for us all.
Yes.
Because this seems like an important topic and a lot of people ask questions about it. So yeah, we're going to talk all things heavy metals today and how we get exposed to them and then what we can do to help eliminate them from our systems, from our tissues.
Yeah.
So welcome back, Cori.
Yeah, welcome.
Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed being on your show last time, so I'm so happy to be back. And I was mentioning before we started that I had a little bit of a busy, crazy day, and I feel grateful for this opportunity to sit down and have a chat with you lovely ladies about one of my favorite topics.
I love that. I'm so glad we can be that space for you and that this is like relaxing and enjoyable instead of another stressful thing in your day.
Yes, and it's neat that this is another thing that you can give back that has meaning, that can kind of fill up your cup, that you can help all our listeners. So it is a really cool thing.
Mm-hmm. So for our listeners who are just listening to this episode for the first time, Dr. Cori, I think it would be great if you could just real quick kind of recap on your background, what it is you do, what your qualifications are, and kind of how you got to this point as a practitioner and what a little bit of your story. You don't have to go so in depth, but just in case somebody never heard of your first episode, they can get to know you.
Okay. Sure. And I would recommend that they listen to the first episode.
I would too.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yep.
It is awesome.
So I am, by degree, I'm a chiropractor, and I have a very busy practice in New York City. I mostly practice nutrition now. I do still see some chiropractic patients because chiropractic is so important, but finding that when people have nutritional deficiencies, chiropractic doesn't work as well. So we want to correct those deficiencies first. So I've been doing this for 23 years.
Wow.
In addition to running my busy practice, I also travel around the country teaching other practitioners how to do what I do. And I have a health channel on YouTube where I make short but very, well, they're not that short. It depends on what your definition of short is. But let's say I try to keep it under an hour, but I aim for 20 minutes. If I have a guest, it's longer. Very informative videos about every single health topic on the planet, and I just keep adding more as I can. I got into this work because when I was a child, I was sick all the time due to the fact that my parents fed me garbage, what I call garbage.
Yep.
So
modern food.
Right. Processed products, not actual food, and full of chemicals and sugar. And so I had what I like to call a garbage body. And after an entire childhood of going through one infection after another and being on antibiotics, I ended up with a chronic throat infection when I was 15 that just wouldn't respond to anything that the medical doctors were doing. So I decided to take matters into my own hands, and I did some research, and long story short, I made the connection between nutrition and health, and that was something that I just didn't know. My parents didn't know either. So I cleaned up my own diet when I was 15.
Wow.
And started taking some herbs, and with my research about herbs and which ones to use, and I cured myself.
Wow.
So that's what
awesome.
Started me on this journey, to help others the same way, using what God has put on planet Earth for us to stay healthy.
Yep. That gives me the goosebumps.
I know. I'm glad I asked you for that recap because I forgot how young you were when you
15.
started that journey and how inspirational that is, because I'm just trying to think of what I did at 15 and it was just nothing.
I think you're picking your nose in the hallway. I don't know. Yep.
Graffitiing the school bathrooms. I don't know.
Yeah. That's really cool.
So you're so inspirational, Dr. Cori, and we're so grateful to have you on today to talk about this topic of heavy metals. And so I'm sure Kay and I are going to have questions that we'll interject with, but if you're okay, I might hand you the wheel, so to speak, and let you just kind of dive into this topic of heavy metals, starting with maybe like what heavy metals are and where we might be exposed to them and why they're a problem, that sort of thing.
Yep. So when we're talking about heavy metals being a health issue or toxic, we're talking about actual environmental exposure to things that shouldn't be in your body. So I just want to differentiate it because people do get confused sometimes. There are some minerals that are metals that you need. For example, you need copper, you need manganese, you need iron. Those are all minerals that the body needs. But when you have exposure to them environmentally, when they're not organic, they're not part of the earth, part of what should be in your body, they can cause health issues. So let's start with talking about the most common metals that people have exposure to and how you get the exposure.
Perfect.
First, water. Water is a very common route for exposure. The most common metals to be found in water: copper, lead, arsenic, cadmium. So it's it's a sad fact that our water supply is contaminated with many toxins. It is possible to filter them out, but you need to have the right filter. A lot of people are not using filters that actually filter out these things. So a lot of people are having exposure. And what happens is it ends up building up in your body. When you have continued exposure, it builds up in your body. That's when it starts to cause health issues. Some of those metals that I just mentioned are also found, there's multiple other sources. A lot of pipes, house pipes, water pipes in houses are lined with copper or lead. So if you don't know that, you might be just your whole life, let's say you grew up in a house with copper lined pipes, you might be exposed to that like for over a lifetime. Cadmium is also found in cigarette smoke. So if you're a smoker or you're exposed to secondhand cigarette smoke, you may be cadmium toxic. Lead is very, very present in our environment. I don't know if you're old enough to remember that diesel fuel used to have lead in it. Do you remember when you had a choice at the gas station to get unleaded gas? Because gas had lead in it. But that stuff doesn't go away. Just because they made it illegal to put lead in gas doesn't mean that the lead is gone. It's still in the environment. It persists.
Wow.
Arsenic. Arsenic is also found in rice. Most rice is contaminated with arsenic, even organic rice, even brown rice.
Wow.
So if you don't want arsenic in your rice, you literally have to search for rice that says arsenic free on it. Otherwise, assume there's arsenic in it.
Wow.
Okay.
And then chicken feed. Commercially raised chickens, their feed has arsenic in it. So think about, sitting down to a nice plate of arroz con pollo or chicken and rice, you're eating a plate of arsenic.
Yeah, right.
So what other metals are very common, have common exposure? Aluminum. Aluminum is probably the number one metal that people have exposure to. First of all, most commercial antiperspirants contain aluminum.
Yep.
Why? It actually, what it does is it damages the nerve cells to the hair, to your underarm hair follicles, so that they stop sweating. It actually is creating damage. That's how it works.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, aluminum is a neurotoxin, so it damages nerve cells. So if you're putting it on topically under your arms, it's damaging the nerve cells under your arms.
Wow.
And you're absorbing it into your bloodstream also, because your skin is very porous. Another very common source of aluminum is cooking with aluminum cookware. So a lot of people, if you ask them, what are your pots and pans made out of? The answer is they don't know. I don't know. I have to go check. But aluminum cookware is inexpensive, so a lot of people use it. And when you heat metal, it leaches. That's how it gets into the food. Wow. That's also why the aluminum and the antiperspirants, like if your underarms, they're hot. It's a hot area. Yeah. So also aluminum foil, cooking with aluminum foil, wrapping your potatoes when you bake them, or putting it on your barbecue, because it's hot, so it's getting into your food.
Right.
Yep.
Another source of aluminum is the things that you can be injected with, childhood injections, and even all the adult ones too. The different injections all contain mostly aluminum. Do you know why they put aluminum in those things? It's it actually stimulates the immune system. It stimulates an immune response.
It's like part of the aggravator to get your immune system started on recognizing those antibodies.
Right.
Wow.
And while we're talking about that, it's important to note that the immune system's job is not just to, let's say, kill foreign invaders like pathogens like bacteria and parasites and fungus and viruses. It also goes after foreign invaders like metals. And I don't remember if we talked about this on the last show, but the mechanism that occurs is that the white blood cells, which are the guys that they kill let's say the germs, they engulf them, and then they dissolve them. They literally eat them like little Pac-Men. They do the same thing with metal when it's injected into your bloodstream. And the problem is that the white blood cells cannot break the metal down. So what happens to it? It stays in the white blood cell. White blood cells live for 90 days. So now you have these white blood cells that are traveling around your body for 90 days with this toxic neurotoxin metal in it.
Wow.
So now here's a scenario that can occur. Let's say you're a little kid and you just got your childhood stuff. So you have your white blood cells are filled up with aluminum or mercury. That's another one that's sometimes in them. And you're at the playground and you fall down and bump your head. And so you have a little, inflammation going on there. The white blood cells get called into action when there's an injury, also when there's inflammation, to try to control the situation. But now they're carrying aluminum in them.
Right.
So they're delivering aluminum to the head.
Right.
And it's a neurotoxin.
Right.
Your brain is the center of your nervous system.
Wow.
So now you've actually caused brain poisoning.
Wow.
And then that can lead to symptoms. Some of the symptoms it can lead to is look like autism. Right? So that's just one scenario that can occur. Later in life, the same thing can happen, and it can lead to symptoms that look like Alzheimer's or dementia. So that's one of the dangers of having it put directly into your bloodstream. When you eat it, let's say when you're eating your arsenic laden rice, your digestive tract has some opportunity to, with your enzymes and your hydrochloric acid in your stomach, to break down the middle a little bit. It's not going right into your blood. It's being altered on its way there. It's not as extremely immediately toxic as when it gets directly into your bloodstream. When it goes through your skin, it's almost like not quite as bad as injecting it, but you're not digesting it.
Right. Makes sense.
So, and then, yeah. And you're doing it every day after day after day.
Right.
Yeah, that's part of it. I had a girlfriend who's like, it's just a little amount, like let it go. But it's one of those things where it's a little bit every day in all of your products, everywhere, all the time.
Right.
Forever. It's like the death by a million cuts, Right. And yep. So, gosh, just try to do what you can with what you have control over, because we're going to get exposure somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So if you're inhaling it, or you're, walking in it in the soil, or you're swimming in it in the ocean, and yeah, you're definitely going to have exposure that you can't control. So that's always my recommendation, is control what you can. And your point about having a little bit of poison every day, which does build up over time, it's the same concept as making a little bit of improvement every day, right? That ends up going a long way, but it can work both ways. So you can slowly make yourself sicker and sicker. And the thing is, when you wake up one day in your 60s and you suddenly appear to have dementia, it didn't happen overnight. Right. You didn't go to sleep without it, and now you woke up with it.
Right.
There's been slow damage occurring over time, and that's true of most diseases or suboptimal health conditions. They don't happen overnight, including cancer.
Right.
You don't just get cancer one day. It was developing slowly over time until you were forced to notice it. So I am in 100% agreement with what you said about just do what you can to avoid what you can. So the choice being having some sweat under your arms and finding another way of getting the odor, to be acceptable, or poisoning yourself.
Right.
Some people still choose poison. I do want to mention here that cutting a lime in half and rubbing that under your arms is a great deodorant. So
I love
easy,
it.
cheap, yeah.
Just don't raise your arms out in the sunshine.
No, yeah. Is it like because it kills the bacteria? Probably the acid from the lime.
I guess so. Yeah. And I'll tell you a quick funny story about that, though. I had a colleague tell me that she started doing that when she heard me mention it, and the half a lime goes a long way. You can use it over and over, like for it'll last a week. Yeah. So she kept it in her refrigerator.
Oh no.
Oh yes.
Yeah, her husband squeezed it into his water.
Label the armpit lime. Oh my word.
Did she ever tell him what happened, or did she think it was just kindest to let him be oblivious?
She didn't tell him. Yeah,
that was the right thing to do.
I wouldn't tell him either. It's too late.
That was the right thing to do.
Yeah, she didn't want him to vomit.
Yep, that's awesome.
Label the armpit lime.
That is very funny.
It's hilarious.
Oh my.
So, and just also thinking about, this is another, it's slightly off topic, but related in that, our bodies perspire for a reason. Our skin is a detox organ. Sweat is actually a really good way to eliminate toxins.
Yes.
So now you're stopping part of your body from doing that. You're damaging the nerves under your arms. You're stopping a normal detox process, all in the name of not having a wet spot, on your shirt and not smelling.
Right.
So, how did we get to this point? I'm a little strange because I don't participate in a lot of conventional rituals.
Yeah.
So I always thought it was weird that women shave their legs, because I'm like, the hair must be there for a reason. I remember asking my gynecologist one day, is it like safe and healthy to take off your pubic hair? And she's like, oh my God, Cori, that's so funny. Yes, it's fine. You can do that. I'm like, but what is it there for?
Right. Like, you think it has a purpose if it's there.
Yep.
That's how I've always thought. I was just born thinking those things.
Yep. If God put it there, it should be there for a reason.
Well, that's right. And then if God didn't create it, it doesn't belong in your body. That's the other part of that, right?
Right.
So I always try to analyze, how important is it that I participate in this conventional behavior? It's easier now. Once you're past menopause, your underarm hair growth starts slowing down. It's less of a problem for women in my age group, but for younger women, it's a big issue, because I do try to get all my patients to not use the toxic antiperspirants, and they're like desperate, please tell me, what can I do? What can I use so I don't smell bad? But here's the other thing. The cleaner you eat and the healthier you are, the less bad the odor coming out of you is.
Yes. That is very true. And like almost like sugar feeds off of bacteria too. So the less sugar you have, the less the bacteria has to eat. So yeah, you're absolutely right with that.
Especially because you're detoxing. So if you're detoxing a bunch of toxins from your food and your like beauty products, it's going to smell bad.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Interesting.
Right. So that's like kind of a vicious cycle, right?
Right.
And poisoning yourself and making yourself more toxic. So then if you try to stop using it, you're going to smell worse.
Right.
So one other little, let's say, secret about helping to reduce odor, body odor, happens to be chlorella. Chlorella is a super green food. It comes from, it's a like an algae, comes from lakes, and it is a really nice, gentle detox, in addition to being very nutrient rich. And for many people, it acts as an internal deodorizer.
Cool.
So it's
good to know.
Something you can try.
I actually started taking chlorella at some point after I had run a heavy metal panel and saw that I had some elevated levels of, I think it was arsenic. And I started taking chlorella to help with that.
Oh, I need to do that. Now, well, this will pivot us a little bit, but I have super high mercury because I had all of the fillings. I had like 12 of those fillings growing up. What's your thought on that? And how can I cure myself?
Yeah. So that was going to be the next metal I talked about.
Okay, good.
Perfect.
Good.
In addition to aluminum, mercury is pretty common because it's also something that's found in those injections that we mentioned. It's called thimerosal.
Okay.
And as you mentioned, a lot of people have mercury amalgams in their teeth. So if you have silver in in your tooth fillings, then it's mercury.
I have so many. Anyway.
Yeah. And we'll talk about what to do about it. The other source of mercury that people are always concerned about and ask me about is fish.
Yep.
So the fish, though, what's interesting is the fish have an enzyme that when they get exposed to the mercury, it breaks it down to some degree. It's not as toxic.
Interesting.
So unless you're eating like a ton of mercury-laden fish, 3 meals a day, every day, it's not something I would worry that much about.
And maybe you could speak to this too, Dr. Cori. The other thing I've read is that because fish tend to be high in selenium, selenium can also help your body. First of all, it can outcompete mercury for absorption, and it can also help your body with the detoxification process of removing heavy metals from your body. So my understanding is if you're choosing fish high in selenium, you're kind of like the exposure to heavy metals is being outweighed by the benefits of the selenium helping your body cope with that.
Yeah, that's possibly true depending on the ratio of the selenium to the mercury. Selenium is a trace mineral. Minerals in general help with detox. And one of the reasons for that is that minerals and metals bind to the same receptors, cell receptor sites. When you're loaded with heavy metals, sometimes you end up being mineral deficient because the minerals can't bind to the receptors because they're all filled up with metal. But if you load up on minerals, sometimes it'll knock the metals off. The thing, though, that I was going to talk about this too, is if once you do a heavy metal detox, we kind of want to replenish your minerals. We assume that if you're heavy metal toxic, you're probably a bit mineral deficient.
That makes sense.
And the truth is most people are, especially in the United States. But we can, let me just write it down to make sure I talk about that.
Yeah, let's revisit that one for sure.
Yeah. So getting back to your teeth, I too had many mercury fillings in my mouth. I was not forced to brush my teeth as a child. So I started getting cavities when I was very young. I actually even had to have a tooth pulled when I was 5 years old, a baby tooth, which very traumatic. I still remember every detail of it.
Yep.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Including the first meal I ate afterwards, which was soft-boiled eggs, and seeing the blood from my mouth in the eggs.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So, sorry.
No.
Yep.
I can just empathizing with the childhood you. I'm like, that would be so traumatic.
Yep. Yikes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So going in like through my 20s, 30s, even into my 40s, I had many mercury amalgams in my teeth, and I had a lot of symptoms. I was very symptomatic. I'm not saying that my tooth fillings were causing the symptoms. I had a lot of other things going on. I have a son with a rare genetic disorder who is having many surgeries, major surgeries, and it was very stressful. And I was really struggling. I wasn't sleeping, and a lot of stress symptoms. But once I started to figure out how to correct the imbalances in my body, once I started applying to myself what I was doing to help my patients, and I started feeling better, I reached a plateau. I reached a point where I was better, but I wasn't 100%. I was still having brain fog, fatigue, some mood swings, things like that. And I decided it was time to get all of my mercury fillings changed, and, exchanged with non-mercury ones. And I was very fortunate to find a wonderful dentist in my neighborhood who did an exchange of service with me. So he he changed my fillings, and I put him on a nutrition program, and we were both very happy with it. But it really did make a big difference.
That's
Yeah,
I
that's
awesome.
awesome.
notice a huge change.
Yep.
The thing is that your teeth are pretty close to your brain. So whenever you eat or drink anything hot, remember, heat leaches the metal. So you're turning it into a gas,
Yeah.
and then it's going that way
Yep.
into your brain.
Yep.
Into your brain.
For Mad
And then-
Hatters. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So a lot of people have neurodegenerative conditions like Parkinson's, dementia, things like this that may very well be caused by long-term exposure to the mercury in their mouth. The other thing that you have to be very careful of, and this is so important, is to get them removed correctly.
Yeah.
I was just going to say.
Yes. Yes.
There's a procedure, it's called the SMART procedure. And I'm trying to now remember, it's an acronym.
I know. I was trying to remember what it was too, because I was going to say, make sure you get the SMART protocol, but I can't. I can't think.
Something metal amalgam
Removal technique, safe,
technique.
probably
Yeah.
safe mercury amalgam removal technique.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we actually interviewed Dr. Cody Kriegel, and he's my dentist.
He's a biologic dentist.
Yep, biological. And I have half of mine removed, but it was a little traumatic for me. It was a dentist prior to him, anyway, did it. And it was traumatic enough that I'm like, I need a moment. But now you have me convinced. I'm going to go to our biological dentist, and I'm going to get the rest of them removed.
Get them removed the right way.
I'm going to get them removed the right way.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. Yep.
Yeah, because getting them removed the wrong way can make you much sicker.
Yes.
And I think I don't know if I shared this story in our last one, but just like evidence on that was I used to work for a chiropractor, and we would do x-rays of every new patient that came in. And we had a patient come in and we did her x-rays. And when I was looking at her x-rays, it looked like her body was filled with glitter, like all these little specks. And we're looking at them like
legs and
in real
and
time.
Torso?
Well, just torso is what we would x-ray, but it shows, some other things besides just bones. It shows anything that's like dense enough to reflect the x-rays. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, I've never seen this before. She looks like she's filled with stars, and I don't know what I'm looking at, right? Like, are we looking at calcium deposits? So the chiropractor that was with me that was looking at them kind of asked her some questions, and eventually he got to, have you had any dental work done recently? And she said, oh yeah, just a few days ago I had some mercury amalgam fillings removed. And we asked, did they use any special protocol? No, nothing that I know of. So they hadn't used a SMART protocol to remove them. And we were literally seeing all of the mercury in her body, in her tissues that had then migrated since the removal. So that's how important it is to have that protocol done to prevent that mercury from then ending up in your body tissues. It literally showed up on x-ray. It was intense.
Wow.
Yeah. You're both swallowing it as well as inhaling it as they're drilling it, and the drill is hot, so it becomes a gas, and then the little particles you're swallowing. So that's what the SMART protocol prevents that from happening, using a dental dam and a suction. So I'm pretty sure that my mom, she had a rare form of Parkinson's, which was absolutely awful. She had no balance. She would stand up and just fall over.
Wow.
Eventually her eye muscles became paralyzed, so she couldn't focus. Wow. Her swallow muscles, her tongue, she lost use of them, so she couldn't really talk or swallow.
Wow.
Now, meanwhile, her brain was fine. She was totally intact, memory and mental wise, but she was trapped in this body that she couldn't do anything with. And I traced it back to her getting her mercury amalgams removed improperly.
Wow, that's powerful. So definitely the importance of looking up a dentist who will use the SMART protocol. And if they use it, they will say they use it.
Yeah, so apparently a lot of non-biologic or holistic dentists are using it now, which is wonderful.
Yes.
I'm so happy to hear that.
That is a cool
but
change. Yep.
Yeah. If you do want to look up a holistic or biologic dentist in the United States, you can go on, maybe your dentist talked about this, IAOMT.org.
Yes. Yep. Yep.
IAOMT.org. We'll make sure we link that in the show notes too.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I also have a great video on my channel with a wonderful biologic dentist who's really into nutrition, because after all, what are your teeth and gums made out of, right? And I don't know if I told this story on the last show, but it's really worth talking about. Have you guys ever heard of Dr. Weston A. Price?
Yes.
Yes, we love him.
Yep.
Love him.
I love him too. So he was a dentist in the 1930s, 40s that started noticing that people's teeth were changing and the shapes of their jaws and their palates were changing. And he ended up traveling all over the world studying people's mouths. Mostly he would go to like indigenous tribal populations that were untouched by civilization and study their mouth and their diet. And he came to the conclusion, pretty much the same conclusion I came to when I was 15, that nutrition is what actually creates health in a body, and that processed foods were causing the structure of the jaw and the teeth to change. And so now there's, a whole organization dedicated to him called the Weston A. Price Foundation, and their role is to help people find real good quality food from small scale family farms that are clean with nutrient dense soil. So I do commercials for them. They don't pay me. I think it's just so important.
Yeah, we advocate for them
so
too,
cool.
also all the time. Yeah.
That's so cool.
So getting back to now, we talked about all the different metals and the different exposures. We didn't talk about all of them. Oh, there's one other thing that I want to mention, and that is the dye, the contrast that's used in things like CT scans and MRIs. When you get injected with dye, they call it contrast, right? That is also a toxic heavy metal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which makes sense because that's what the
Would show
scan
up.
is reflecting off of.
Wow.
Exactly. So gadolinium is one of the most common metals to use. I find people who get a lot of these diagnostic imaging tests with contrast, I find them to be very toxic in general, both with the dye and then if it's a CAT scan, also radiation.
Right.
This is very, very heavy radiation. So anybody that gets one of these tests, well, you want to try to avoid them, but if you can't, you need to detox it afterwards.
makes sense.
Actually tell you that you're radioactive after those tests and not to go near pregnant women or, babies. So that's how bad it is.
Makes you feel good that it's in your body.
Yeah, right. Exactly. You're walking around like lit up.
Yeah.
And then also, there's fallout from nuclear power plants that have these really, really horrible cancer-causing metals that contaminate the environment. Things that, stuff like, uranium and polonium and palladium, things that most people have never heard of. They all end in IUM. And so does the gadolinium that's in the contrast. So... okay, so that's all the bad news, right? All the
It's feeling heavy.
Heavy metals.
Heavy metals.
But I think awareness is always important, right? Like
Yeah.
it has to be a serious topic. It has to feel a little bit heavy because it's a big problem. It's a serious problem, and we need to recognize what a serious problem it is so that we're motivated to do something about it and take control of our own health, right?
Yeah, I'm feeling that for my teeth, guys. I kind of was just letting it go, and now I'm like, oh crap, I gotta make that appointment. So this is good. This is good. Yep.
Some of the symptoms that, well, let's put it this way: you can any non desirable symptom that you experience could be from heavy metals. Some of the more common symptoms are brain fog, fatigue, mood stuff like depression. Some people, I had a patient once that was literally suicidal. He was heavily copper toxic.
Wow.
Yeah. So, it can affect your memory, as we mentioned, and also a weakened immune system, because again, the immune system, if you're toxic all the time, your immune system is constantly getting called into action. So it can be depleted. So, and then, it can cause, hormonal imbalances. It can cause autoimmune problems, digestion issues. So there's no one way of knowing if you're toxic. And I do think it's a good idea for everybody, just everybody, to once or twice a year, just do a detox.
Yeah.
Because, as careful as you are, you probably still get some exposure.
Exactly.
So before we talk about how to detox, I think it's very important to talk about how to prepare for a detox.
Yes, please.
Because a lot of people just want to go, guns blazing and blast that stuff out of there. And that's not a good idea. It can make you feel worse if you do that.
Yeah.
Your detox organs actually have to be open and working to let the stuff out. If you try to detox and let's say you're constipated, it's not exiting your body. So
Right.
it ends up recirculating and you can feel worse. You can actually get sicker. So I'm going to talk about the most important detox organs. So the first one, which is interesting, is something called your parotid gland. And that is a salivary gland in your mouth. It's the gland that swells up if you've ever had the mumps. I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember mumps.
My mom had the mumps, but I never had them.
didn't.
Yeah. Well, you probably had the inoculation as
did.
a child, but it didn't exist when I was a kid. So I had the mumps, lived to tell about it.
Yeah.
But what happens with the mumps is that your parotid gland swells up. So your cheeks get big and it's hard to talk or swallow. The parotid gland produces a special kind of saliva that has enzymes in it that tag toxins. So when toxins are coming in through your mouth or your nose, get into your mouth, the parotid gland saliva tags the toxin to inform the rest of the cells in the body, this is poison, don't let it in.
How interesting.
However, if you have a lot of toxic exposure going in through your mouth all the time, let's say you're eating your, arsenic-laden chicken and rice, and you have mercury fillings in your mouth, and you're drinking water with metals in it, and other toxins as well, not just metals, the parotid gland is working too hard to try to keep up with all of that, and it burns out.
Wow.
Just the same way your adrenal glands can burn out if you're under too much stress all the time, right? So sometimes your parotid gland needs to be rehabilitated, and it's a good idea to do that before you start a detox.
Wow. I would never have known that.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very common. I find it quite a lot. I literally have people whose parotid glands are inflamed.
Wow.
And they get pain.
Yeah.
So, I use the only supplement that I use for this is called Parotid, PMG. PMG stands for protomorphogen. It's a special type of supplement that helps specific glands and organs to rehabilitate.
Wow.
So that's the only thing I ever use for that is something called Parotid. With the concept being like heals like. So if you have a problem with your parotid gland, eat some parotid gland.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I find that at any supplement store or?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. You got a black market connection? We can.
It's probably practitioner only, because you should be doing that under the guidance of a practitioner.
Oh, I see.
It's practitioner only, but I did put links on my website, because when I like do videos on my channel talking about this, I'm telling people, it's okay to take that. It can't hurt you.
Okay.
So maybe we can include one of those links too in our show notes to your website, where people can find you and find that information.
Well, I want one. Then just one tablet a day then? Or it's on the bottle?
I always tell people to follow the directions on the bottle. Okay. Some people actually need more than what's on the bottle, and some people need less, but you can't overdose on it, so it can't hurt to take more than you need. Mm-hmm. It could not be as effective to take less than you need, and I'll tell you the truth. When I first started taking it, before I had my mercury amalgams removed, I needed 16 a day.
Oh,
yeah.
Did you start with one and you kept adding until you felt better?
No, I was doing it under practitioner's guidance. And the thing is that all the supplements that I use are made out of food, and they're really they're super low doses. It's like a tiny little tablet with a little bit of food in it. So even 16 is like eating one, big bite of food. It's not really, it sounds like a lot because we're used to drugs that are
micro
concentrated chemicals. Right. So that's the parotid gland. The next gland that we need to, or the next organ that we need to take a look at, is the liver. The liver is the primary organ of detox. So you have to make sure that your detox pathways are working, or any detox you do is not really going to be that effective. So some of the things that can cause the liver to be functioning less than optimally: number one, alcohol. Right? It just puts a lot of stress on the liver. And then if you have too much alcohol exposure over time, it causes fat to form in the liver. That's what's called a fatty liver. And then it definitely doesn't detox well. And then if you keep doing it, then you get what's called cirrhosis of the liver, where basically your liver stops working and then you die. So if you're interested in detoxing, then I recommend that you quit alcohol for a while. Anyway, for a while.
Yep.
And then also the other thing that can really damage your liver is high fructose corn syrup. So if you're mostly eating processed food products, then you're probably getting exposure to high fructose corn syrup. It's extremely toxic. It's also all genetically modified. So I don't know if you have listeners outside the US, it's not legal to use it in Europe. So high fructose corn syrup does not exist in Europe, or neither does GMOs, genetically modified organisms.
Even in China, they don't allow GMOs. We have listeners in 82 different countries, so they're well aware of some
America,
of the limitations of the US, because we talk about that quite a lot.
Gosh.
Yes, we're like complete guinea pigs. They're just trying to see how fast they can disable us.
For a few people to make lots of money. Okay.
And high fructose corn syrup, from my understanding, is the consumption of it is why they're now finding fatty liver in children, because it also can cause fatty liver. So what used to be a disease of adults and primarily due to alcoholism is now showing up in young kids because of the consumption of high fructose corn syrup.
Gross.
Exactly. Yep. Yes, it is gross. It really is. It, that plus add, artificial food dyes and flavors, and it's just people are eating poison and feeding it to children. And children have little bodies, and they're already dealing with getting aluminum injected into them. So,
they're up against a lot.
Yep.
Well, that's why I love working with women who are planning to have kids, so we can fully educate them. We can clean their bodies out, get them ready, get their, I call them the baby house.
Yes. Clean the baby house. Yes.
And then we grow healthy children, and we can actually save the next generation and the generation after that, because that's the only way to turn this around.
Right.
So the other thing that can damage a liver is Tylenol. Acetaminophen in other countries is called paracetamol. It's the number one cause of acute liver failure.
Wow.
Yeah. So taking too much of that.
Especially combining that with alcohol, which when I've had patients with chronic pain, that's not an uncommon combination, and it's pretty bad.
Right.
Like it's like a double whammy on your liver.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've known patients who had to be brought to the ER in acute liver failure, and they get an IV of glutathione to clean it out. And the other thing that, of course, will put stress on a liver is too much toxin.
Right.
So, because it's the primary detox organ. So if any of this applies to you, of course, try to eliminate alcohol, high fructose corn syrup, don't take Tylenol. People, well, what should I do if I'm in pain? So I have videos that offer you alternatives. Okay. I had a severe back injury a couple of weeks ago. One of my senior dogs was afraid to jump out of the car because he has a little shoulder thing going on, and he wanted me to pick him up and put him on the ground. But once I picked him up, he changes his mind and started flailing. And I pulled my back. I was in so much pain.
That's the worst.
I cannot take, even if I wanted to take Tylenol or any of those over-the-counter painkillers, I can't take them. They all make me sick immediately because my body is so clean.
Right.
So I did a whole bunch of natural stuff. I took some homeopathic remedies. I put some essential oil on it. I laid on my infrared heating pad. And within 36 hours, the pain was gone. I'm going to do a video on what worked for me, because I was like, wow, that was amazing, Cori. You really did a good job healing yourself.
Please do that. And let us know when you do it too, because we're recording this episode in advance. So we'd love to link to that.
Yep.
I'm sure it will be ready by the time we're releasing this episode, probably around August. So,
okay, yes, I was going to try to do it in the next few days.
That'd be great.
And so the other thing that you can do for your liver, little liver TLC, you can take some milk thistle. Milk thistle is an herb that's very healing to the liver. So, I'm a little bit of a herbal snob as far as brands, so I use a specific brand. But
what's your favorite brand then?
Well, so my two, it's all under one umbrella company. The brand that I use the most of, the parotid PMG, is made by a company called Standard Process.
Yes, Standard Process.
The oldest nutrition supplement company in the United States, family owned. They have their own farm. They grow their own stuff. They've been there since 1929. All of their supplements are made out of food. And then their sister herbal company is called MediHerb. They're based in Australia, but they're very picky about sourcing, about making sure that the active constituent that actually has a therapeutic effect is in their product, so they actually work, right? Otherwise, you could be just eating dirt, sticks and stones in your capsules, and you'll never know it.
Right.
Yep. Cool. That's cool.
Yeah, I've seen MediHerb before, but I didn't realize they were a sister company to Standard Process, so that's really great to know.
Yeah, so they have a partnership, and I've had the privilege of going both places. There's Standard Process Farm in Wisconsin, and then the MediHerb facility in Brisbane, Australia. And extremely impressive. And I just and they're the Standard Process whole food supplements are not that expensive.
Right.
It's rather affordable, so it's a really good choice, I think, and you can't overdose on them because they're made out of food.
Yeah.
The next organ of detox that's really important is your kidneys. Your kidneys, when you're urinating, you're eliminating toxins. So you got to make sure that that's happening. What can damage the kidneys or cause them to underfunction? Number one, dehydration.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be either not drinking enough water or not drinking the right kind of water. And water is such a confusing topic, and there's so much false information about it. And people are so 100% sure that they know that they are drinking the right water, and they're so not.
And if I remember correctly, you have a video on water as well. I think that we linked in the original episode that I'd like to relink here.
Yeah, it's just like, I think it's one of the most, like, water and breathing are the two most important activities that the body does.
And that
you
somehow
can't live
we
without
do
either one.
somehow that we do wrong on a
Yeah.
daily basis.
Yeah.
Both of them.
Both of them.
Yeah, true. So what else can damage the kidneys is diabetes. So having high blood sugar causes kidney damage, and high blood pressure also. The kidneys regulate your blood pressure. The kidneys produce a hormone that regulates your blood pressure. Taking medication for high blood pressure also damages your kidneys because it's suppressing their functioning. And non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, NSAIDs, like ibuprofen, like Advil, Aleve, ibuprofen, naproxen, those drugs also damage the kidneys. Wow. So there you have it. Your two most common over-the-counter painkillers damage your liver and your kidneys.
Wow.
Yeah. So for kidneys, I would definitely recommend, it's something similar to the parotid gland remedy. It's a kidney remedy called renotrophin. It just helps to grow healthier kidney cells. I use that a lot. I give it to animals. I give it to people. And it's very, very non-toxic, very nice to support good, healthy growth of kidney tissue. But again, you want to make sure you're well hydrated. And if you do have diabetes or high blood pressure, those are things that can be corrected. You don't have to have them. We can fix it.
Right. Absolutely.
And the last organ of detox that's really important is your bowels. So I did mention earlier, if you're constipated, you can't eliminate toxins.
Right.
So you do need to be pooping.
Right.
So one of my favorite remedies for that is probiotics. So most people have a gut flora imbalance, which can lead to constipation. So we want to make sure that all these 4 organ/glands are doing their thing before we start a detox.
Absolutely.
And then the principle behind detoxing is take it easy.
Right.
You don't need to get it all out of your body all at once. A very popular way of detoxing is chelation, where you have something injected into your bloodstream via an IV. EDTA is a popular, it's an amino acid substance that helps to bind onto toxins and pull them out. But I have found that it doesn't work that well. It pulls toxins it pulls metals out of your blood.
Okay.
But not the metals deep inside your tissues. You got metals stuck in your organs, and that it doesn't really address that. And I find that people feel really sick when they do heavy metal chelation.
I bet.
It causes a detox reaction.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah, detox reaction feels worse than being toxic. Wow. So you feel like a truck ran over you. You feel like you have the flu. So I do a very gradual, gentle approach. So chlorella, we already mentioned, that's one it's gentle. You take it over time, take it on a daily basis. You can do a detox. There's different detox shakes you can do. My favorite company, Standard Process, has one called Standard Process Detox Balance. So it has some protein, some vegetables, and some herbs that help to pull toxins out of your body. Again, you're doing it gently. Start off with 1 shake a day, and then you slowly work your way up to 2 shakes, and then 3, and you do that for a little bit, and then you start taking less over time. And then, by the way, dark green leafy vegetables have substances in them that help detox. So cruciferous vegetables, I do recommend that you eat them cooked.
Yeah.
They're high in oxalates, so that's not good for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then we mentioned earlier minerals. So minerals are really important. If you think that you're heavy metal toxic, we have to start feeding the body minerals. Most people are mineral deficient because, well, at least in the United States, most commercial soils are fertilized with petroleum-based artificial fertilizer. And that does not put minerals back into the soil.
Right.
Your minerals come from the soil that your food is grown in or that animals are eating. So, by the way, just as an aside, Monsanto is a company that created the petroleum-based fertilizer, as well as many other toxic chemicals that are on planet Earth right now, including glyphosate and GMOs and aspartame, which is equal, and many other things. Agent Orange.
I was just going to say Agent Orange.
Yeah. DDT. There's a long list of things that they created. So that's, they are single-handedly responsible for many diseases and deaths. But, the way to really combat this is to keep yourself as healthy as possible. Eat food from nutrient dense small farms that the soils have minerals in them. The best way to change the world is to vote with your food dollars.
Yes, we have power. Yes. Yep.
So I have a video called How to Prepare Your Body for a Detox and another one, How to Do a Detox. And these are the things I'm talking about. We also have some recommendations for homeopathic detox remedies. This is what we use for babies and children, because sadly, and animals, sadly, they're often toxic as well. We just give these very gentle homeopathic remedies that don't have any taste. They're liquid, very easy to just sneak them in. My favorite company is called Homeovitics.
Okay.
And they make a metal detox. They make a chemical detox. They make an organ system detox. They have, they break it down. They have a radiation detox and food additive detox. They actually pollution detox. Yeah. So you can be very specific with it depending on what you've been exposed to.
That's awesome.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So I talked your ear off already. I think we went past our time, right?
Oh, no, you're just fine. I mean, I could sit and listen to you all day. But
Yes, you're brilliant. I did have a question when you said about the water. So what water do you drink and what water do you suggest? Yes. And I once on my Instagram, there was this $3,000 water machine, and I was like, I'm going to buy it. And my husband is like, slow down there, Rambo. And I'm like, okay, well, let me research.
Yeah.
So what do you suggest for water?
So like herbs, I'm also a water snob.
Yes.
There's 3 factors that a filter needs to accomplish. 1 is getting all the toxins out. 2 is leaving the actual good minerals in the water.
Oh, yikes. Yep.
If you take all the minerals out, the water becomes acidic.
Yes.
Minerals are what create the alkalinity. And 3, that it's structured. So water in nature should be moving, right? It's snow melting on a mountain and coming down the mountain and forming a stream, and it's a moving stream, and that's why in nature animals drink from moving streams.
Yep.
Rather than still water. But we are all drinking still water because it's sitting in a reservoir or it's sitting in a bottle. I think well water is okay because it's coming, from the ground. It's actually moving water. But well water can also be very high in metals like iron and things like that. So it still usually needs to be filtered. So I just have a filter that does. Oh, so wait, let me just finish about when the water's not moving, the molecules, the molecular structure of the water become chaotic. And then it's not as hydrating, for one thing. So you're wondering why I keep drinking, I'm still thirsty, or I have dry skin, my lips are dry, my mouth is dry. What's going on? So you're drinking water that's actually unstructured and it's not hydrating, and you're not like getting most of the benefit of water into your cells.
Well, I'm going to interject here because this is interesting, because we have a creek in our backyard and we take our dog down there. And my kids know when we go down there, the dog can drink from the moving water, but he can't drink from the stagnant water because it's gross. And it really is. Like I'm like, get out of that stagnant water. That is disgusting. You can smell it. It's gross. And so that's our rule with our dog. Only can drink from moving water. So you're right on. You're right on.
I know. I kind of freak out a little bit when I take my dogs to the park and there's it had rained the night before and there's a big puddle and they just go. One of my dogs loves to swim. She thinks it's a swimming pool. The pigeons are in there bathing. Yeah. And I'm imagining the bacteria. Yeah. So I interviewed a water expert on my channel, and he makes a filter that does all three things. It's so specific because he makes it and it doesn't have a name. Like, you can buy it from him. He has a website. You can buy the filter from him. But it's not like you can go online and shop for it.
Sure. It's not on Amazon.
Right. So I don't really know any other filters that do all three things. They might exist.
Okay.
But I just don't know of any. So after I did the video with him, I bought his filter. Like, as soon as we finished the recording, I'm like, I want to buy your filter.
Right.
And it's easy to install. You don't need like a specialist or whatever. And I've been drinking that water ever since. And definitely it tastes different. You can feel the difference. And my hair got shinier. So
Oh, I believe it.
Okay, 2 questions with that. Well, one, let's link it in our notes if you have a connection to them. We could do that.
And maybe to your water video, so people could learn about the product.
But also, if you put it in your house, so like if you have city water, hasn't the city already taken out of the good nutrients out of it? So if you filter it, you know what I mean?
No, they don't do that. They just put a lot of disinfectant,
like chlorine into it. Okay, and stuff.
And
okay.
bromine. Yeah.
Okay.
So it still has the minerals, and I can tell the difference because I used to use what's called a zero water filter.
Okay.
Zero water filter takes all the toxins out, but it also takes the minerals out.
I bet that's what I have.
If you do like a blind taste test, you actually realize that the zero water tastes acidic. Like you could taste the difference.
Gosh, I bet we have that. We have like a well, but we have like 3 water systems. We have like an iron guard, and I don't know. I called the water shop guy because I turned orange when I took a bath. And then he was like, oh, I know where you live. You need the work. So I have 3 different things. So I'm sure it's stripped of all the good minerals.
Well, in ours, if you have RO, as far as I know, that removes all of the minerals as well.
It does.
And we have like mineral drops we add back into our water. And I'll just say, if I don't add them, like, I can't drink the water. It tastes nasty to me. I can imagine the like filter you have that does all of those good things.
Amazing.
To keep the minerals in or rebuild them is like, I can only imagine, because I go to other people's houses and they don't have the mineral drops, but they have RO, and I'm like, oh, their water just tastes like nasty to me.
and drinking the RO over time, and this is also true drinking highly alkalinized water, ends up creating mineral deficiencies in the body.
Dang, I got so much to work on, guys. So I'll have to get a filter to send some to my shower and the iron guard, and then our drinking water, I'm going to have a separate spigot on.
Yeah, and that's exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it does. His filter has a separate spigot for the drinking water.
Okay. I'm on this. I'm here for it. I got a dentist appointment and a new water filter, guys.
You'll be a new woman when I see you.
Yes, I will. You're changing my life. This is good.
Awesome.
Oh, good.
Well, gosh, we have covered a lot of ground, but I think one of the things I just love so much about you, Dr. Cori, is you're so deliberate and you explain things so well that I think it's very easily digestible for our listeners. So I always appreciate sitting. I mean, this is only the second time, but we asked you back for a reason.
Yes.
We don't have tons of repeat guests, but it just was, I'm like, I think Dr. Cori has even more to offer if we could just dive into even one of the subtopics of the 1,000 topics that I know she knows about. So thank you so much.
I'm happy to be a regular if you want.
Yes, we want you. We love your energy. I'm buzzing with this hope for our next generation of health, and take charge of your life and make the good choices, and you can do it. You can do it. And you being a connector with all the other small farms and connecting with the dentist and you got something going, lady. You're doing really good.
Yeah, well, that's what my life is about, really. It's my purpose. So
I love it. Well, it shines.
Yep. You're nailing it.
Talk.
So. Yes.
Well, thank you so much. Is there anything we missed that you're just I just want to talk about this one thing, or did we cover all the bases?
I made notes and I said every single word that I wrote down.
Perfect.
So I think we're good.
Good.
Awesome. And we'll do our best to remember to link everything we talked about in this episode. But for our listeners, if we ever miss anything, just send me a message.
Yep.
You can message us through our website. You can send us a contact form, or you can even message us, I think, through the podcast platform. I think Spotify has a way to send a message.
We'll see.
But if you can't do that, you can always message me on Instagram. And Dr. Cori, how do people reach you? What's your website and your YouTube channel? We'll say it out loud and then we'll include it in the show notes as well. But I always like to have it both verbal and written. And then if you have any social media, let us know what that is too.
My website is very easy, drcori.com. My name is spelled Cori, and I actually have on my website a PDF that you can download for free called Everyday Items You Never Knew Were Toxic.
Ooh.
So I would recommend people get that. I think the first thing on there is toilet paper.
Oh.
Yeah.
Bleach.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
And then on YouTube, my name is Dr. Cori Stern, Coristern. And if you just put that in the search, it comes up.
Perfect.
Yes. And I also respond to questions. You can email me at questions@drcori.com. I also respond to questions if you ask me on the actual YouTube videos. I try to respond as quickly as possible.
Awesome. Yeah. Good. You're better than us then.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, it'll take us a month, but we'll get there. So
I have help with that.
Oh, that's smart. That's smart.
I also do virtual consults if anybody needs specific help, like if you want to do a supervised detox or anything like any health problem that you're struggling with. Cool. I'm happy to make recommendations for you specifically.
I love that. And I do usually recommend if you're going to do a serious detox or you have a problem, doing it under supervision.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Well, thank you so much. This is always enlightening and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for your time, Dr. Cori. You're wonderful as always and a beam of light in this space. So
yes. And to our listeners, go be renegades.
Go be renegades.
Thank you for listening to the Renegade Nutrition Podcast.
Please keep in mind that this podcast is an educational service that provides general health information. The content on this podcast is not a substitute for direct, personal, professional medical care and diagnosis. You should always talk to your doctor before making a dietary or lifestyle change. Go be renegades!
Go be renegades!